Hey guys, my name is Rodolfo and I am co-founder and COO of swivl. Welcome to our first roundtable in our automation series. The focus of this conversation is to take a 10,000 feet view of how automation can improve each touch point in the customer journey through the lens of some of the top industry thought leaders out there. The focus of today's conversation is customer experience and customer journey. And so today we're excited to be hosting two incredible operators that we will be introducing momentarily, both experts in their respective roles and have been a wealth of knowledge to our team. Joining us as well today, we have swivl CEO Mason Levy, who will be co-piloting the discussion. I'll let you take it away.
Thanks, Rodolfo. Excited to have the discussion today. We know that one of the most important aspects of building a brand is the digital reputation. Web experience and how you implement automation is core to that. We believe that in order to build that digital reputation correctly, you've got to be thinking about how to improve every touch point your customers have with your brand. Each time they visit your website, they call your phone number, or they walk into your brick and mortar, it's an opportunity to create a lasting brand experience. Well, let's jump to our panelists today. We're excited to have Davida from StorageMart and Raheem from Devon. Thank you both for joining us. I'd love to pass the mic over to Davida for a second. Give us a little introduction of yourself. How did you get into the storage industry? Were any career transitions? And then Raheem, we'll give you an opportunity to do the same thing as well.
Yeah, hi. Thanks so much for having me. My name's Davida, and I am a web product manager at StorageMart. I first started working with your team, though, in the role of email marketing manager, where I really handled more of the cross-channel communications. So I got into storage because I was working in front-end development and email marketing and was looking for really a career move to work with a company that invested in their employees and gave me space and resources to grow, and that's what brought me here.
Awesome, thank you, Davida. Raheem, same question to you, man. How long you been in storage, and what brought you here?
Hey everyone, Mason, Rodolfo, thank you for the invite. Appreciate it. I've been in the industry about 7-8 years at this point. And I think every one of us has a unique story on how we got into storage, and I think I'm no different. My story started with, I was in between jobs and I got a phone call from a recruiter saying that, hey, there's somebody interested in bringing you on board. And I said, who was it? And they said it was self-storage. And I'm like, why do I want to talk about self-storage? Or why would I want to get into self-storage? And the only reason I started doing the interview is because I needed to get some practice. And I had not done interview for like 20 years. So I'm like, hey, this will be a great opportunity for me to do an interview process. And the more I talked to the people at Extra Space, the first person I talked to had been in the industry like 21 years, second person was 15, third person was 23, fourth person was like 7, 8, 9 years. So I'm like, wait a minute, what's going on in the industry that people always like to stick around? And the more I peeled that onion, the more I found out about the values of the company and the culture. It just intrigued me coming from a restaurant industry where turnover is extremely high. That really got me going, and that's the reason I'm here in the self-storage industry.
That's awesome. Well, we're glad to have both of you. Let's get to it and jump into our first kind of question here. So, we know that improving the customer journey is one of the most mentioned automation projects in general. I'd love to hear from you guys with the experience you've seen. What kind of shifts are you seeing in shopping behavior? And, where do we think the industry is going as well now versus, 10 years from now? I'll pass it to Raheem. Take it first, please.
Well, I'm seeing a lot of shifts, right? Especially, there's pre-COVID, there's post-COVID shifts, but, customers now, from what we're seeing, the data that we're collecting and looking at it, customers want the ability to choose, if they want to do business online or in person, right? We're also seeing customers shopping habits have changed. They're shopping at odd hours of the day and the night. So, those are some of the things that we've sort of noticed. And, there's some shifts happening in the digital experience. And we as brands need to make sure that we have an omni-channel approach available so we can shift with the customer.
Awesome. Davida, are you seeing some of the same things, or, obviously you guys have presence across the globe as well too. Interested to kind of hear your perspective on this.
Right. Yeah. So customers expect to be able to engage how they want to engage and to be able to pick up the conversation at every point along the way, which is a challenge or can be a challenge. I would say one of the other interesting trends we've been seeing, and this has been kind of sliding this way for a while, but really over the last year, we've seen kind of that breaking point where we used to have the majority of our customers and leads coming from phone calls. It's now online, both our website and lead aggregator. And that's just a huge shift in the way we think about where we invest our time and resources to support customers.
That's awesome. Thank you.
And I have a kind of something related to that as well. So, I'm curious how you guys are, constantly thinking about, how you differentiate from, that player down the street, right, or from the rest. And I was doing a little bit of research, Davida, and kind of passing this to you first. Looking at your background and some of your other talks, it seems like you are a very big proponent of voice. And I'm curious if you've added some of those capabilities to y'all's offering, or how you guys interface with customers. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a voice application on Alexa, and really that's more addressing the decision stage of when we get leads in there. And it's also adding content just to help with SEO, voice SEO, basically. So that really was important for us to hop into voice and start kind of getting some of our intents sort of claimed, just like you would with your web address. And that's kind of why we went that direction. But I would say we also, it's not just the thing with voice is there's not a lot of brands and companies really building out the Omni-Channel approach using voice, right? We have some neat voice functionality that exists in its own little bubble. And it's really taking that and integrating it across. So yeah, people can engage with Alexa the way they want. But again, that conversation needs to follow throughout. And that's where the need is right now, I think.
Awesome. And Raheem, and from your standpoint, what is Devon? I know you guys, I see you in speaking gigs and really talking about pushing the digital experience and how to improve that and teaching others how to do that. How are you guys, differentiating from the rest?
One thing that we like to do is make sure that the customer experience is as frictionless as possible. As Davida talked about, if the customer wants to, chat with somebody on a computer and then move to text, or if they want to, if they have a question and they want to get the answer right away, if they want to email, if they want to just move in online, if they want to make a reservation and you're 98% occupied, it doesn't matter how the customer wants to communicate with you. We want to make sure that we're there and we're solving their needs.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, to the slide that we're showcasing right now, this is something that from our report that we gathered from operators and even vendors and just folks in the space. And so whenever we ask what's one of the most important aspects to automate and work on within their customer experience, 92% are trying to streamline that whole customer journey, like you guys are talking about, and trying to add innovative ways to execute that, from acquisition to retention, and really primarily focusing on, how can you improve that shopping experience as being that top thing that they're trying to streamline. So super interesting on that end. And so along those lines, Raheem, you're talking about, how to make that digital experience frictionless, right? And I think you even posted something earlier this week about really focusing on operators should really start thinking about, like, from a guest point of view, trying to step into their shoes. So, can you go a little bit further into that? It's like how you're improving the customer journey in general. That could be from your digital presence all the way to your in-store presence.
Yeah, and Davida mentioned that earlier, right? We're seeing a shift. We're seeing that a lot of people they're not doing phone calls. They're coming through the internet. They're coming through the digital experience. So then the question becomes, how many of us have really put ourselves in the shoes of our customer and have really gone through that whole experience? You know, from the time you do a search to see what your landing page, or your first thing that pops up is your GMB page, right? Your Google My Business page. How does that look? Does that have all the data points? Does it have pictures? Does it have HD quality pictures? Does it have a 360 image so the customer can visually see where they're going to go and what they're going to do? Does it have all the information? Do you have a website? I can't believe how many stores that we still, when we're doing searches and we're doing acquisitions, we get all excited because they don't even have a website. So what kind of experience are we giving a customer, right? And if they have a website, then when you land on their landing page, they're asking for some goofy information, right? When a customer lands on the page, they're looking for a unit. They want a price. They want to know what size unit it is. They want to know what attributes there are. And, you know, we see web pages all over the place. You know, I saw one the other day where the owner is basically, the landing page was, please give me your name, your email, and your phone number, and why you're reaching out to us, and we will call you back. So that's their page. That's their landing page, right? So it's just those kind of things. It's creating friction, right, along the way for the customer and the consumer, where they're going, wait a minute, that's not what I want, you know. And then as you keep going, you know, you have other locations that only do reservation or only do rental, or they do reservation and they do rental, but it's in two different buckets. And then when they do ask for that information, they're just asking for some ridiculous information that you really don't need. So just putting yourself in the customer's you know, shoes and really understanding the journey that we're used to with Amazon, the one-click option. How many of you guys have used Amazon's one-click option, right? Why do you do that? Because it's easy to use, right? So how can we take that thought process and bring it into self-storage and bring it into our process, make that as frictionless as possible? And I think a lot of us try to think through what our viewpoints are versus what the data is telling us and what the customers are telling us.
Yeah, I love that. And I love your point about Amazon one-click. And I think maybe it's sort of just goes hand in hand with that. In our industry, there are so many people who are experts in the field, who have been here for, you know, for years, and they have expertise in certain aspects, but we need to step back. Like, your expertise isn't the customer's experience. Like, you're very far away. Our customers aren't experts in the storage industry. They're just people trying to figure this out and make it happen fast. I love that the idea of thinking about what are the smooth and frictionless experiences we see elsewhere, not just what are other storage companies doing. What else can we identify as being a really smooth experience, and how can we bring that in, and how does that help our customers?
Yeah, I appreciate that, because I am a self-storage user. I've moved to 7 states over the past 6 years. Currently, almost all my stuff is in storage, as I've been a little nomadic the last 6 months. You know, it kind of leads into, you know, I'm in the shoes right now. It's, you know, get to experience some of the pros and cons, and I think that helps. You know, when I personally am designing conversational experiences and thinking about where are they in the customer journey. I'm curious, Davida, to begin with, you know, when you guys map this journey, when you're thinking about these touch points, do you have specific personas and demographics that you're designing your, you know, online and offline experience around? Or, you know, what do those personas kind of look like? Obviously, you know, I'm a mid 30-year-old millennial, so I love the online experience. If I don't have to talk to anybody, and the quicker that it can be, the better. I'm just kind of curious of how you guys think about that.
Well, when we design it, we really don't approach it from the persona specific angle, which is a little different, I think. But we kind of start with some baseline rules and understandings about, we respect privacy, right? And there's obviously legal reasons for that, but we respect preferences. We align our messages, and we kind of start from what are the technical things we have to have in line to meet these new expectations of my preferences are followed, my conversations pick up. And we really start with just kind of a base conversation to answer that. And as we learn more and get some data in different areas, we usually tend to tailor more towards a store-specific audiences versus one-to-one personalizations, at least when we're looking at the big picture.
Awesome. Thanks. Raheem, are you guys thinking about it similarly? Or I know you're more geolocated in a specific area, so maybe it's a little bit of a different persona there because you're in their backyard all the time.
Yeah, my persona is if you have a heartbeat and you fog up a mirror, we want you.
Yeah, nice. I guess
and Mason, you moved 7 times. I'm sending you a coupon. Next one's at Devon.
Nice. Awesome. I'll use it. I like that. I appreciate it. Interesting to kind of transition a little bit, to not just the customer journey, but like leveraging the automation within this. I'm curious if you guys have, some big challenges you guys have experienced as you're pushing these automation experiences forward. So I'll throw that back to you, Raheem, really quick. What are some of the biggest challenges or barriers you've experienced as you've tried to push these customer journey automations forward?
I think there's 2 sides to that question, right? There's the operator side and then there's the consumer side. And so let me start with the consumer one because I think that's the easiest one. Because what we were thinking 2 years ago or a year and a half ago before COVID, COVID has completely changed the infrastructure and the thought process. What we thought about, oh my God, people don't want to do stuff online. They want to talk to somebody in person. They want to do this. They want to do that. They want those touch points. They want that feel good stuff. That has changed. In the 2 months that everybody was in lockdown when COVID started, my grandma, 65 years old, is out there, buying her groceries online with Instacart. Prior to that, she had no idea, how to run a computer. The environment around us and the digital experience that people are providing has completely changed. So we need to step back and really need to look at what this post-COVID era is really all about. So from the consumer viewpoint, there are no barriers. The barriers are ourselves. We are the ones that are getting in front of it because we have antiquated data and we have antiquated ideas that we think, and we're trying to implement those and try to push those forward to our consumers that have already moved along. And I think that goes back to the first part that I was talking about, is that it's the operator, right? For even with the chatbot. The chatbot is so easy to implement. It's anybody can run it, and over again, when I'm trying to explain this to people, it's like, oh my God, I don't know if I can understand that. No, it's a simple concept. Anybody that can run an Excel spreadsheet can literally run one of the chatbots. It gives you tools, it gives you access, it gives you data, and then at the same time, it gives the customer an ability to ask a question, get an answer immediately. One of the strangest things that we have noticed is that since we launched the chatbot, when a human takes over, the quality of the customer expectation actually goes down because the human responds at a slower pace than your chatbot. So you're training people to have immediate responses, and a human can keep up with that. So it's actually a negative experience for them.
Really interesting.
That is, we love to hear it. We say they're 24/7, don't have a bad night of sleep, et cetera. So that's awesome. I mean, I think one of the biggest frustrations in general from consumers on a website is just, the speed that they want a response in. So that is an interesting anecdote there. Davida, I'm curious if you guys have had any barriers. Most organizations don't have automation projects even going. And I think like the actual use cases are there. You guys have had clear use cases since we started working with you day one, but I'm curious if there are other barriers within the organization you faced.
Absolutely. I think just growth and scaling both the company operations wise and our internal teams to meet with that. And as internal roles shift and new people get brought in, and as we see, customer expectations shifting to being able to live chat, being able to have conversations across all sorts of channels and not primarily on the phone, how does your team adapt? And that's been a challenge for us. We have an excellent call center with award-winning sales representation and all of that. But, you have to deal with the internal kind of politics of how does that role change from you're not just a phone call center to you have this opportunity kind of to deal with a wider range of customer experience. And people still need to talk to humans, just not necessarily literally on the phone. So I think making that shift internally has taken longer than I had hoped for. but it's just the direction we're going in. It's going to happen. So it's just a matter of pushing forward, I suppose.
It's interesting. We talked about some of the voice initiatives that you guys had earlier, and you already alluded to both of you to Omni-Channel. Customers want you to know who they are regardless of when they're talking to you. This next question is not really around the Omni-Channel, but like new technologies within the organization. Like, how do you guys think about staying on top of what's next? What are consumers going to want? Raheem, you mentioned that as well. Like, the consumers are demanding this. I'm curious of where you're doing your research. Where's the channels that you guys are trying to understand? What's the next thing that you're going to implement? And Davida, I'll put it back to you just because you just had the conversation kind of talking about that too.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think there's a lot there. One of the big things is just having a company culture where you can be curious and people do care about what they're doing, and they have the time and energy to be passionate about it as well. And I'm very fortunate that's StorageMart, like I said, invests in its people and gives us the educational budget and the time and everything to be curious. Beyond that, we do try to attend various conferences, both industry-wide and then, channel specific, whether it's email marketing or voice conferences we've been to. Omni-channel wise, I think the big thing is just being curious and being able to have these discussions, because you're always learning new things. We have a lot of industry related groups we belong to, and like you said, when you're passionate and curious, that stuff naturally just develops and you naturally go out and find it.
Awesome. Raheem, you're always on stage giving talks, at least the two of the SSA events that we've been to. I know that you've presented. I'm curious, what are you always thinking about to continue to push the envelope forward for the next time that you get to get on stage and talk to people?
It's anything and everything, right? It's just, as Davida said, it's you got to be curious. You got to be talking to people about trying to find out what they're doing, why they're doing what they're doing, and what new technology have they implemented, and how can you absorb that within your own company, right? So you just got to be curious, and you got to ask a lot of why questions. And, as the industry is shifting, you're seeing a lot of those. We've already gotten most, if not all, have online rental capabilities, but, it's still not all there, right? So you still got to get us all the way to 100%, because, again, that's what customers are looking for. They're looking for that journey. Millennials are growing up fast, and they're going to be a big chunk of our next pool of renters. And as Mason, you talked about a little bit earlier, hey, I want to go through the whole process without talking to anybody. Well, then online rental comes into play. So are we leveraging that fully? And then that omni-channel approach is all the way through. It's not just the digital experience, but also can the customer, once they finish online rentals, can they actually get through to your property and get through to your gate? And many of us have solved that problem. They get a gate code, they punch it in, they can get through the gate. Awesome. Where do they go after that, right? What support do we have to teach the customer where to go? And then from there, the last inch, I think many of us, 98% of us, are still fighting that battle. The last inch, right? How does that customer get through that door, right? In the new properties that we're building, we got no key, we got different additional experiences that we can put in so a customer can get through that door, right? But what about the existing properties? What about the 50,000 properties that are already existing out there that don't have that infrastructure, and trying to install a no-key Bluetooth system, $300 per door? That's a pretty expensive proposition for us, right? It's not just the cost of that, but the vendor cost, all of those things come into play. And then there's a liability risk of what happens with the customer stuff when you get access to the unit, who watches that? All of those things come into play. So we gotta have other tools there. There's other locks that are coming out that are just gonna be pure Bluetooth capable, and they'll just fit in on regular locks that are out there right now. So you don't have to go through a whole infrastructure change. You can just buy that lock, put it on a unit, and suddenly you have made your property, truly unmanned. So you got to keep thinking about those, and keep thinking about those changes that are coming in the industry, and how are we going to leverage those?
Awesome. That's really interesting from just everything that we're seeing, even partnerships and whatnot with other vendors in the space, how there is that push for the unmanned facility. But I am also just wondering, like, all of that is towards acquiring customers and making sure they have their space. But I'm sure, a lot of that, the customer journey doesn't end there, right? It's also the success and making sure, you're getting that feedback from them and how to keep improving, et cetera. So, do you guys see that part of the equation also being, critical to the success of your brand and all that?
Oh yeah, for sure, right? Customers are seeking brands that align with their personal values and beliefs, right? They've done survey after survey on that thing, and over the course of the last year, we're seeing a lot of that thing. So, that's where it comes in, your social media exposure and how you're promoting, what you're promoting, and how you're going about doing that. All of that comes into play. What's going on with it, how you're addressing it, and how are you getting in front of the customer.
Anything else there, Davida, that you want to add?
No, I mean, that's kind of the approach we take as well. We've been looking more into the brand awareness stage. We work with some strategic partnerships with charities and local sports teams right now to just bring that awareness. And then there's the charity aspect involved in that, and let people know it's not just, I think, especially with the bigger companies coming in, it's not, a big corporation swooping in and taking out a mom and pop shop. It's a company that has the resources to invest in your community, and that's what we're doing, and helping your community grow as well.
Love that. It's not just about storage and where you're putting your stuff for the next move. It's a little bit bigger than that. And, I think the last years we've all realized we need to make a positive impact wherever we can. So that's awesome, Davida.
Well, spoken like a true millennial.
Yeah.
All right, guys, last question. Anything you want to announce or plug for y'all's brands?
Vida, I'll let you go first.
Thanks. I mean, I guess we're growing and always looking to improve our processes. And like we said, the part of being able to adapt and learn about new technologies, having conversations. So I would say reach out to me or anyone at StorageMart if you have questions or want to have a conversation, and we'd love to talk.
Yeah, I would say attend sessions like these, stay connected with the influencers that are innovative and are thinking outside the box in the self-storage industry. Keep asking a lot of questions, and attached to that is attend the national and the local SSAs. I think you'll get different viewpoints, and you'll get different ideas that are on the forefront and that are emerging, and give you a good platform to ask your questions.
And just for a last little quick announcement from our end, we're going to continue doing these roundtables and just these discussions with thought leaders in the space. So I'm super happy with how this turned out, and with Raheem and Davida being able to join us. Our next one is going to be around how to automate your Omni-Channel strategy. So we did touch on a few points today. I'm excited to expand on that on the next conversation. And then lastly, we did release this year's the industry report in automation and AI and how it's affecting self-storage. We discuss a lot in there. We have interviewed a lot of operators and industry leaders in the space in general. We talk about everything from what operators are doing to consumer trends in general and how customers are interfacing with automation, what's out there. So you'll learn everything from hybrid automation, how to be always on, online shopping experience, how to improve that. And even we put in a lot of data from our own platform on how our conversational AI has been dealing and some of the trends that we've been seeing from customers asking questions. So it's packed with a lot of information, and you can find that on our website to download. Anyone can download it. So there's that. And Mason, anything else you want to say?
No, I appreciate everybody. This was an awesome discussion. Davida, Raheem, it's always great to see you guys. Thanks for the time today. We couldn't be more excited to work with you guys as we continue to build and innovate in the storage industry as well too. So thank you guys.
Hey, thank you for the invite. Appreciate it.
Thanks, everyone.